I'm Spencer Mazyck, and joining me now is lawyer turned professional football coach Daron Roberts. He is the defensive quality control coach for the Cleveland Browns. Welcome, Daron. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Spencer, for having me.
So, Daron, I understand that you actually graduated from Harvard Law School at the same time as one of our other stealth lawyer guests. That's filmmaker Cole Wiley. Is that right?
Yes. He and I were in the same class together. Class of 2007, which since it's 2013 seems like a long time ago. But
So I want to talk about your path from law to football, but first, can you tell me, why did you go to law school?
Well, my parents bought a book for me, I guess probably around 5 or 6, and it was a book about Thurgood Marshall, and I remember that he was one of my first heroes when I was growing up, and I just became enamored with his journey as an attorney. And so I made the decision at an early age that I would become an attorney at some point. And I come from a large family, and I don't have any attorneys in my family at all. And so I felt that that would be a noble profession for me. And so I kind of made sure that everything that I did from an educational standpoint was pointing in the direction of attending law school.
Is it true that you also worked 8 months on Capitol Hill in Senator Joe Lieberman's office?
It is. After I graduated from the University of Texas in 2001, I worked for Senator Lieberman. It was during the 9/11 era, and I had a chance to work with him and really get some good experience on the Hill. And after serving that stint, I started my graduate program at the Kennedy School.
So were there aspirations of becoming a politician at some point?
Yes, if you'd asked me when I was graduating from high school or graduating from graduate school, then I would have told you that my dream job would be serving as the governor of the state of Texas. And so everything that I did was really devoted to preparing me for that position. And obviously, we all know that many politicians and statesmen are attorneys by trade, and so I felt like that was probably the right move for me if I wanted to become the governor of the state of Texas.
So was it a sports law class in your second year of law school that actually allowed you to open the door to other possibilities?
Yes, during my 2L year, I took a sports law class from Professor Paul Weiler, who is really the godfather of sports law, and had the opportunity to interview Mike Leach for my final paper. And traveled to Lubbock, met with Coach Leach, and I was just fascinated at every turn. I've shadowed him for quite some time. We talked about everything from the situation with North Korea to what's the best play to run in the red zone when a defense is giving you a too high look. So our conversations really jumped from football to politics to current affairs, and I left Lubbock on my way back to Cambridge, and I really started thinking that coaching football was a profession that I would try to pursue in the present tense instead of putting it off. And I just have to say this: when I was graduating from high school, I wrote in my yearbook that I would return to Mount Pleasant High School and serve as the head coach of the Mount Pleasant Tigers after I graduated or after I retired. So in my retirement life, I would serve as the head coach of my high school football team. But that experience with Leach really prompted me to try to bring that, the experience of football and that life, kind of closer to where I was at that point in my career.
But so other than playing football in high school, though, did you have any coaching experience or any background training in football?
I really didn't. I must say that I played for 2 very successful teams in Mount Pleasant. We were a 4A school in Texas, which is the second highest classification. We went to the semifinals and the quarterfinals when I played for the Mount Pleasant Tigers, and I've always said that playing 4A football in Texas is just about the same as playing Division II football in college. I really felt I received a really good and solid foundation in the fundamentals of football, both from a technique and from a philosophical standpoint, because I had some really good coaches in Mount Pleasant. So I do feel like they prepared me, gave me a foundation to build on moving forward and becoming a coach in college and in the pros.
So Daron, how does one go from being a Harvard Law School grad to actually, with very limited coaching experience, to actually becoming the defensive quality control assistant for the Kansas City Chiefs, which is where you worked after you graduated from law school?
Well, you have to write a lot of letters. The majority of my time, my first semester during my last year of law school, this was 2006, I wrote a lot of letters to a lot of teams and basically just made the pitch that, I was about to complete at that time the most rigorous academic program in the world, and that I would bring that same work ethic that allowed me to be successful in Harvard Law School. I would take that to whatever team would allow me to come and work for free. So I made that pitch, and I was fortunate that Herm Edwards, who was then the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, gave me a chance to start my coaching career.
And I want to back up for a second. Did you say work for free? Did you volunteer at the beginning of your career?
I did. I knew that because I didn't have any coaching background, I wasn't a former player at in either the college or the NFL level. I knew that I had to pitch my services for free, and I assumed from the outset that many coaches would be skeptical of my desire to become a coach. So I knew I had to prove myself, and working for free seemed to me to be the best way to do that.
But so did you have any concerns, though, about repaying student loans? How were you able to even make ends meet if you were working for free?
Well, there was a lot of prayer involved, and also I had clerked for firms during the summers in law school. And those firms at the time, and I know it's still the practice today, paid summer associates a prorated amount of what they would pay a first-year associate. So I was getting paid an exorbitant amount of money during the summers. I saved up quite a bit during that time, and so I had budgeted a cushion that I felt like would allow me to work for free for no more than 2 years. So internally, I had a deadline for myself that said, hey, if I can't get a paying job in 2 years, then we're going to have to try something else in order to make ends meet. But I had a cushion. I had some supportive parents who were able to help me. I didn't have, my cost structure was fairly low. I wasn't married at the time. I didn't have any kids. So I just had a 2002 Tahoe and set off from Cambridge with that.
And did you also teach online classes just to generate some money while you were coaching?
I did. That first year I volunteered, and my typical day began around 4:30. I would get up, make coffee, warm up the copier machine, and I was in the office whenever the defensive coordinator would get there. I wanted to make an impression on him, and then I would usually get to bed around midnight or 1 o'clock. So I found time at night to teach a couple of online courses. And to be honest with you, that first year at Kansas City is a bit of a haze now. I spent most of the time on Red Bull and any other drink and coffee that I could find, and so there are some hazy periods. But I taught 2 online courses. I taught a political science course and also an economics course, I believe, a microeconomics course.
But Daron, I have to say that this is obviously a passion of yours, but how were you able to identify it so clearly as a passion, especially since you hadn't coached before?
Well, I had the opportunity during the summer of 2006. One of my best friends, Alfonso Longoria, was a coach at the time, and he took me along with him to the University of South Carolina. And I arrived, spent 3 days there, and at the end of those 3 days, I knew that I had just, spent the best 72 hours of my life. I was working with sixth grade, seventh grade students, teaching them defensive technique, and coaching DBs, and then also talking with the coaches there at night, staying up late and watching film. And I just knew that that's the life that I wanted to live. And so it made the trip for me back, the trip back to Cambridge was fairly easy, because I knew that I'd found my passion, and that coaching was definitely something that I needed to do immediately.
And there were a couple of coaches who obviously took a chance on you, but what about the players? What did they think about your inexperience?
Well, I must say that I've been fortunate. This is my 7th year coaching. I've been fortunate that I haven't had one player at either the professional or the collegiate level ever question my ability because of my background in the law. And I've actually found that my legal training has in many ways really buoyed my reputation as a coach among players, and also as a mentor. Several times players have approached me on a very personal level and have asked me questions that involve divorce proceedings or real estate issues. And obviously I always give them the disclaimer that I'm not a practicing attorney, and so
Right.
any information or any advice that I'm giving them shouldn't be construed as sound legal advice. But we'll think through some issues, and I'll usually point them in the direction of someone that can be helpful. So players have respected the fact that I have a legal background.
Do you find that you use your legal background and training any other ways while coaching?
Here's what I've found, Spencer, is that football is really an analogous exercise, and coaching is an analogous exercise to the practice of law. Every day I have to find the best language to frame an argument. I have to find a way to package complex ideas and schemes into sound bites and into phrases that players can remember and that players can understand. And I found that exercise is in no way different than crafting an appellate brief for the Supreme Court. You have to be persuasive. You have to find a way to use language that's descriptive, and really it's one and the same. So I really think that even if I had to do this all over again, I would still do it in the exact same order. I'd go to law school, then I would begin coaching.
What would you say is the single most important thing that you've learned on your journey thus far? It's a very unique journey, Daron.
The single most important thing, I'll tell you what Herm told me when I was working at Kansas City, and he told me that at the end of the day, make sure that you treat your family well, treat your wife and your kids well, because when you're fired, they're going to be the only ones that are going to help you pack up your boxes. And had a chance to experience that recently. Fired from West Virginia, and as a coach, you understand that you're going to be fired at some point, but I had a pretty good streak going. I had a 6-year streak going without being fired, which is pretty good in this profession.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Yeah, so I was thankful for that, but my wife and kids were so supportive during that time, and from the transition of going from Morgantown, West Virginia to Cleveland, Ohio, they really were the support system that I needed. So, that's the one piece of advice that I've really tried to hold on to as I've gone on this path.
Well, and before we go, Daron, I want to ask you about your nonprofit. I know it's a 4-year-old organization, and I think it's called Fourth and First. Is that right?
Fourth and One.
Fourth and One. Okay.
I started in 2010 when I was an assistant secondary coach with the Lions. And really what prompted me to start the camp is that I felt like there weren't any camps that combine football and academics in a really meaningful way. And so I crafted a curriculum that involves a third of the day our student athletes undergo football training. The next third of the day is devoted to SAT and ACT prep. And then the final third of the day is devoted to life skills. So we have a dinner etiquette workshop. We teach our student athletes how to dress in professional settings. We have an interviewing workshop, a goal setting workshop where we bring in speakers from across the country to lead these sessions. And this is our 4th year in operation. Currently we have a camp in East Texas, my hometown of Mount Pleasant, and then one camp in East Lansing on the campus of Michigan State University. And then we just signed an agreement with the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 3rd camp in Jacksonville. So, we're pleased that we've served nearly 200 students over the past 4 years, and we're looking forward to the program growing.
Well, it sounds like a great initiative, and I want to say thank you for joining us today. I know you're not going to stop until you're head coach of your high school football team there, Daron. We're behind you all the way.
Very much, Spencer. I appreciate it.
For more information on this or other topics, subscribe to BloombergLaw.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everybody.